Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kochattil. The India-Pakistan tension, China's, when the world focuses on South Asia, the headlines are usually dominated by familiar stories like this. Expanding influence, developments in Afghanistan, or the strategic interest of major global powers. But beyond these headlines which I just read, lies the issues of another story that often receives far less attention, a quieter, deeper crisis that has been unfolding in our neighboring country, Pakistan. This is a story more than terrorism. This is a story about how history, governance, ideology, regional security all converge into long-term consequences whose effects shape the entire South Asian region today. Pakistan, as we know, is a nuclear-armed nation of more than 250 million people. Its stability matters not only to its own citizens, but to the entire region and indeed to the wider international community. Today, we will explore Pakistan's crisis and look at how Pakistan arrived at this point and explore why militant violence remains a persistent challenge. Why many experts believe that the solutions required are much more than a military force alone. Let us look at the crisis behind the bigger headlines. Now, we all know that Pakistan has faced internal militant violence for years. Security forces, civilians, educational institutions, religious sites, and government facilities have all been targeted in the past and even now by extremist organizations. These attacks rarely dominate international news for long, but they continue as a burning threat that affect everyday life across large parts of that country. One incident illustrates the seriousness of this challenge. In February 2026, a devastating suicide bomb struck a mosque in Islamabad during Friday prayers. Reports indicated that the attacker confronted security personnel before detonating explosives inside the crowded mosque. Dozens of worshippers lost their lives. Many more were injured. Beyond the immediate tragedy, that attack raises an uncomfortable question. If such an attack can occur in the nation's capital, what does it suggest about the broader security environment? Before we address that, let us ask ourselves, how did militancy begin in Pakistan in the first place? For that, we need to look back at the origins of the modern militancy in Pakistan. Many historians and security analysts trace the roots of Pakistan's current militant landscape to the late 1970s and 80s. During the rule of General Zia-ul-Haq, Islam became increasingly integrated into state institutions, legal structures, and public education. At almost exactly the same time, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, and Pakistan suddenly became the frontline state in one of the Cold War's most significant proxy conflicts. Supported by the funding from the United States, Saudi Arabia, and other partners, Pakistan played a central role in training and supporting the Afghan resistance fighters. The immediate objective was to defeat the Soviet forces. That objective was ultimately achieved. But the infrastructure created during that period did not disappear. The training camps remained, the weapons remained, the networks remained, and of course, the experienced fighters remained. Over time, some of these networks fragmented into multiple organizations. Some redirected their focus, and eventually, some of them turned against the Pakistani state itself. One of the most significant examples is the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP as it is known, which has become one of Pakistan's most dangerous internal security threats. Let's look at the attacks on the state institutions. The TTP has repeatedly demonstrated its capacity to strike symbols of the state authority. Military installations have been attacked time and again. Police academies have been targeted. Courts, schools, civilian institutions have suffered devastating assaults. Each attack serves more than a tactical objective. It also attempts to undermine public confidence in government institutions and create the perception that the state cannot fully protect its citizens. This strategy seeks not only to inflict casualties, but also to weaken trust in democratic governance and national stability. And it seems to be working. Let us look at radicalization beyond the battlefield. Because some security experts are now observing that over time, extremist movements like the TTP in Pakistan have begun to influence not only the public, but even government institutions from within. This phenomenon is sometimes described as inner radicalization. And if individuals working inside sensitive institutions begin sympathizing with extremist ideologies, the risk for Pakistan and the broader South Asian region increase significantly. Because then the concern extends beyond mere ideology and militancy of a handful of fighters. It becomes an operational challenge involving intelligence, security, and institutional integrity. And while Pakistan maintains extensive security procedures to protect its strategic assets, analysts continue to debate how the long-term radicalization within society could affect the public institutions if left unaddressed. Let us look at the role of education and madrasas. Now, another often debated aspect of Pakistan's history of militancy concerns transformation of parts of its religious education system during the Afghan Jihad. During the 1980s, the number of madrasas expanded dramatically, providing traditional Islamic education. However, researchers have documented that some of those institutions adopted curricula influenced by geopolitical priorities of that period. Foreign funding, ideological movements, and wartime mobilization all played significant roles. In some cases, educational materials portrayed armed jihad as a religious obligation within the context of the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. Some schools reportedly even combined religious instruction with military-style training. Prominent religious figures and institutions became influential in recruiting volunteers for the Afghan conflict. It's important to note that Pakistan has introduced reforms since 2001. Registration systems have been expanded. Some of the madrasas have incorporated English, mathematics, science, and even computer education. However, many analysts argue that the implementation remains uneven and the oversight varies considerably across the country. But the socio-economic realities also play an important role. For many poor families, madrasas provide free education, accommodation, and meals, making them one of the few available educational options. Let's now understand the regional consequences. The consequences of Pakistan's internal security challenges do not remain confined within its border. The neighboring country, India, has long argued that the militant groups operating from Pakistani territory pose a direct cross-border security threat. The major terrorist attack, like the 2008 Mumbai attacks, the 2019 Pulwama attack, and the tragic collective trauma that went along with it. And of course, if steps are not taken, then India and South Asia become vulnerable to future attacks. And beyond bilateral tensions, prolonged instability, all of which affects regional trade, investment, infrastructure development, and economic cooperation. Resources that might otherwise be devoted to education, healthcare, economic growth are instead directed towards security. In a region that is home to nearly 2 billion people, the opportunity costs are enormous. Question we need to now look at is, can military force alone solve the problem? To address the problem of internal militancy, Pakistan has launched numerous operations against militant groups over the past 2 decades. Some have achieved important tactical successes. Many militant leaders have been eliminated. Large areas have been brought back under governmental control. Yet, many experts argue that these military victories alone have not permanently solved a problem rooted in decades of political, educational, economic, and of course, ideological change. They argue that the sustainable security requires stronger institutions. It requires better governance. It requires educational reform. It requires economic opportunity. Most importantly, it requires reducing the conditions that allow extremist organizations to recruit vulnerable young people. The recent POK protest is also a reflection of how people in that region, especially the minorities, are suffering at the hands of the Pakistani state. Now let's look at lessons from another area in South America. Now it's Colombia. One country often cited by analysts is Colombia. For decades, Colombia struggled with powerful drug cartels, insurgent groups, and widespread violence. The city of Medellín became internationally known for its insecurity. Its transformation did not occur through policing alone. Authorities combined security operations with investments in education, public transportation, urban development, and even community programs. The former combatants were offered pathways back into the society. Public institutions were strengthened. Today, Medellín is widely recognized as one of Latin America's most remarkable examples of urban transformation. While Pakistan's circumstances are different, the broader lesson remains relevant. So, long-term peace can be achieved, but not merely by defeating violent groups, but by looking inwards and reforming the nation's social and economic foundations. Now, let's look forward. In conclusion, the future of South Asia depends on the choices made today. Now is the time for the global community to pay attention to this silent crisis. India has already taken the initiative, sharing intelligence and evidence of terror networks in Pakistan with its strategic partners, working with organizations like the FATF, UNOCT to curb terror funding, supporting sanctions in United Nations Security Council, and championing a comprehensive and universally accepted definition of terrorism. It is the moral responsibility of the global community together to take a unified stance against Pakistan's domestic tragedy, which deeply affects South Asia's rising regional aspiration and the safety of the international milieu as a whole. A stable Pakistan benefits not only Pakistanis, but also India, Afghanistan, and everyone in the world. Extremist violence may produce short-term strategic gains, but it rarely delivers lasting stability. Ultimately, Pakistan should be called upon to establish lasting peace through effective institutions, building accountable governance, quality education, economic opportunity, and regional cooperation, just like Colombia did. These are the foundations upon which durable security and even happiness rests. As Mahatma Gandhi once observed, the greatest power in the world is that of the soul. Peace is its highest expression. Thank you for watching. If you found this discussion informative, please consider subscribing to Conversations. Share your thoughts in the comments below and join us next time as we explore yet another issue shaping our world. Until then, thank you for your time. Jai Hind.